Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of Grab Your Stuff podcast. Super excited to be here, as always. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Vernique Esther, founder and creator of Authentically Wed. I am a healing and wholeness coach. I am a licensed master social worker, clinically trained, and I am like your cousin, your favorite online influencer personality. Right? I know I am. I know I'm your favorite. If you're new here, welcome. We have a lot of fun. Talk to me. I talk back. I feel like I can hear you guys like yassing me in the episodes, okay? So again, if you started here, Happy New Year. I hope that the beginning of your new year is going well. I know that it has been amazing for me. So this episode, just like every other episode, is going to start with, let me put you on. Let me put you on. Let me put you. It's going to keep changing until y'all get me a theme song and or the Let Me Put You On song, okay? It's going to keep changing. Y'all going to have to deal with my made up version. But for those of you guys who are new to this space, Let Me Put You On is the part of the show where I give you something to try, whatever is tickling my fancy at the moment, what I think is dope and all of that. And I recommend it to you, and then you try it, hopefully, and let me know if I put you on to something new, right? So my goal is to always put you on to something new, whether it be an idea, a product, an activity, all those different things. Sometimes y'all like what I give you. Sometimes y'all be hating, okay? Like in episode 1, but we won't rehash the past. That's the past. We don't got to go back there. It's okay. Today's Let Me Put You On has to do with something that I actually did last year. So as part of my journey towards recovery, when I was having a lot of anxiety and just a lot of things going on, one thing that I took up was leisure reading. As a child, I used to read a lot of books. I kid you not. I had read about 500 books by the time I was like 13, 15. I read a ton of books, and books were my lifeline. But then as I got older and matriculated through high school and, college, reading kind of felt like a chore because I had to do it for school more and things like that. So one thing I wanted to reconnect with while I was in my season of just healing and recovery from mental health was reading. And so one of the first books I read was actually kind of like an urban fiction thing. And that was really cool just to ease me back in. Something leisure that had nothing to do with anything. That wasn't a self-help book. That wasn't a business book. And then the other book that I got into was Gabrielle Union's You Got Anything Stronger. And it's a conglomerate of stories where she just kind of talks about different aspects of her life and her experiences. And y'all, I really, really, really enjoyed that book. I really, really did. I am a lover of stories. This is something that I talk about often. This is also why one of my favorite therapeutic kind of interventions is narrative therapy. I believe that there's a lot in our stories. So I recommend that book, but also I recommend to you guys to read a book or a few books this year. And it doesn't have to be, I'm not telling you read books so you can learn something new. Read books so that way you learn a new way to relax. Read books so that way you gain different perspective on things, and that you kind of are able to get in touch with other people's experiences and expand your perspective. And just read, because reading is fun, and it's another way that your brain gets to learn as opposed to watching TV. So that's my Let Me Put You On for the day. Let me know what you're reading. Put it in your stories. Tag me and do hashtag, grab your stuff, hashtag Let Me Put You On, and show me what you're reading. I want to see what you're reading. Maybe we'll start a book club this year. I don't know. That's a bit much. I always have all these ideas. But if you want to start a book club, join the Patreon and then say something. I want to hear your thoughts on that. Okay. So today's topic is self-fidelity. Self-fidelity. I made that word up. I've never seen it anywhere else. So if it exists out there, I don't know about it, but self-fidelity. We're going to get to the nitty gritty of something that I think is really important that a lot of people, men and women, struggle with. And I want to talk a little bit about that experience. Now, I want to be clear that we're not talking about selfishness. We're not talking about self-centeredness. I don't fully buy into our culture that's like heavy on self-love, self-this, self-care. Like, I believe in self-love and self-care and whatever, although self-love is it's debatable, right? But self-love, self-care, those things are good. Self-esteem, those things are good. But I think that culture has perpetuated an idea that everything is about you, right? If it doesn't serve me, I'm not doing it. And I don't think that that's always the proper attitude, especially for those of us who are Christians, who are believers, right? there is a level of giving of yourself and losing of yourself that's actually supposed to happen as opposed to more gaining of yourself. But it's not literally like, forgetting yourself. It's a lot. We could have a whole conversation on that. But my point is, I want us to be clear about what we're talking about. We're not talking about more ways for you to be selfish, more ways for you to cut people off. We're talking about having a healthy view of yourself. Okay. So I told y'all during episode 1 that I got into a car accident, right? So I got into a car accident last year, and here's the story. So I was driving to meet up my friends, to meet with my high school friends for like kind of a brunch, and before I left town because I travel for work, as you all know. Well, on my way, I was like a couple miles away from the location that we were meeting at, and somebody hit me from behind. And got the police involved and all that kind of stuff. But that day, my friends were like, hey, let's go to the hospital just so you can get checked up and stuff. I was having some pain just in waiting for the police, but I was like, no, I don't think it's worth it. Like, should I not? It was like this whole ordeal. And I literally, like, while I'm in pain, telling myself, like, it's not that serious, it's not that bad, like, get over it. Like, that's the perspective that I was kind of having in the conversation I was kind of having with myself. And feeling like, you know what, you're exaggerating. Like, it's not, you got hit from behind. It wasn't even a hard hit. Y'all, this is like almost a thing with my friends. Like, I have been in more accidents than I can count, and only one of them was my fault. So, like, it's a hot mess. Why I've been in so many accidents. I'm praying for the rest of my life that I don't get any more. But I'm like, you're exaggerating. It wasn't even that bad. It just kind of hit you from behind. But all the other accidents that I have been in have kind of started to pile up on each other, right? And so I was truly in pain. I was spasming and all these different things. And I sat with my therapist later on. I eventually, got seen. I didn't go to the hospital, but I think I went... you know what? I'm sorry. I'm having a moment. Like, I don't think I ever got seen. I tried to go to the hospital, but due to COVID, there was such long waits, and I didn't want to sit there and get COVID. And so I was like, oh, well, I'll go to a chiropractor. Oh, well, I'll do this. I'll do that. Y'all, I'm looking back, and I never went to the doctor. And that actually makes this episode more important. I never even went to a chiropractor. And I battled with the pain for a while, and there are still some effects. So anyways... golly, like, now I feel like this episode is about me. But so I sat with my therapist, and I was like literally in like near tears when I thought about the fact that I champion for other people all the time. And I encourage people to champion for themselves all the time, right? Especially in our current culture, we scream like, believe black women, and believe the black experience and things like that. And we're screaming it loud. But I believe, like, for myself, when I'm in pain, when I'm tired, when I need a break, I don't believe this black woman. I struggle to believe when my body, when it says it needs to rest. I struggle to believe my mind when it's saying, hey, we're at our breaking point, right? Now, I do a whole lot better. Outside of this example, I do a whole lot better with that. I take breaks. I take days off when I need it. I ask for what I need. I implement boundaries. I speak up for myself. These are things that I have progressively worked on in the last year. But historically, I have had a hard time believing this black woman while championing for the right and for other black women to believe in themselves and to give themselves grace and to have, a more realistic and gracious view of themselves. So which leads me to this. And many of you guys may be experiencing the same thing that I have experienced. And that's why I think this topic is so important. Even if you've never identified it, you might. So we expect faithfulness from any and everyone else, and yet are the main violators of our own expectations. I'm going to say that again. We expect faithfulness from any and everyone else, and yet are the main violators of our own expectations. I expect myself to show up for my business. I expect myself to give myself rest when needed. I expect myself to believe my body when it's sick. By the way, in my experience with COVID, in the beginning, I'm thinking like, maybe I'm just not feeling too good. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night that first day that I was sick, and I was like, something does not feel right. And I was like, man, just go back to sleep. But I was like, no, something don't feel right. And I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I went to CVS to find that I had a fever. And I was so proud of myself for believing my body, right? because we don't always do that. We try and trudge through things. What Brittany Broder-Smith at the intimacy firm calls, the struggle Olympics. We just try and keep trudging through it and like pressing on. But everything doesn't need for you to press on, right? So I have expectations to listen to my body, to show up for my business, to rest, to, I have these expectations to accomplish, meaningful work. And yet I am often the main violator of that expectation. I'm the first person, and I'm saying I, like the collective I, like we're the first people to stay up way past the bedtime. We're the first people to not go to the gym when we need it. We're the first people to eat bad food. You know what I mean? But everybody else has like a 1 or 2 strikes. Don't violate my boundaries. Support me. Communicate. Blah, blah, blah. But we don't do that for ourselves. And so at its core, what it means to be faithful is to be loyal and steadfast. Steadfast means unwavering. So when you talk about fidelity, fidelity is faithfulness, right? Fidelity is faithfulness. When we talk about having self-fidelity, we're talking about being loyal and being steadfast, unwavering. And what I mean is not unwavering like, you don't make room for exceptions and things like that, because that is human. Everything is not always going to be in your 1, 2, 3 step plan. But to be steadfast on your principles, on your convictions, on the things that matter to you, on your values, and to back that up. Basically, be 10 toes down for you. Okay? So for example, do you respect your own boundaries? Do you honor your body? Do you heed your discernment? Do you move according to your best interests? Do you have a safe community of people to seek wisdom from? Do you feed yourself spiritually? Do you make time to have pleasurable experiences? One thing that I did in 2021 was I took a solo vacation to Miami. I took a solo trip to Miami, and I think I talked about that in prior episodes. And it was so healing. It was really amazing to experience that. Because I really took time to take care of myself, and I had pleasurable experiences. I got massages. I went to the spa. I sat on the beach, y'all. My favorite place on earth is the beach. My favorite place on earth is the beach. And so I sat on the beach for hours at a time. I read books. I ate good food. I had such an amazing time. And I created that pleasurable experience for me. And it's something that I hold on to and will be able to hold on to forever. But do you make time for pleasure? Do you give yourself pleasurable experiences, or is your whole life a struggle and a grind, right? How is it that we have an easier grasp on being present and faithful to the needs and desires of everyone else and heed to their whims and their subtle nudges, by the tweak on your partner's face that he or she may feel uncomfortable when you're like, hey, what do you need? But the subtle tweaks and different changes of your soul, of your heart, of your spirit, of your body, you're ignoring. Every whim of your kids. Oh, you know what? It's nap time for Lil Ray Ray. He acting funny right now. He's being fussy. Those different cues in everybody else, but you don't listen to them for yourself. When you're dating that woman and you feel a little off, and you feel that like, I don't think I'm supposed to be with this girl. Or when you're engaged to a man and you're like, I don't know, I'm feeling like maybe I need to cut this relationship off, right? Or I think that this person that I have been kind of avoiding, I need to move forward with them. Do you have that relationship with yourself where you listen to those subtle nudges? And really, it's not just yourself, right? It's a relationship with yourself and a relationship with the Holy Spirit to heed his wisdom and the wisdom that he's giving you. And the things, and even still, God works through our bodies, right? Our bodies were created a certain way for a reason. So when you're hungry, your stomach growls. You can probably hear mine growling right now. When you're sad, you start to tear up. These are things that you can't even really help. It's what your body does. These are the ways that God is showing you and leading you to make healthier decisions, or to move in certain ways, or to change certain behaviors, right? So you don't have time for self-care, but your calendar is full of taking care of everybody else every waking second. Your calendar is full of things for you to do for everybody else, but you have no time to reset for yourself so you can even show up for them in a healthy and a productive way. You want love, but you settle for projects that gladly watch you suffer from carrying their weight and yours. Make it make sense. Okay? Essentially, you are cheating on yourself with your need to be needed and your gravitational pull towards anything external that fills the holes you refuse to take to God and heal from. I'm going to say it again. You are cheating on yourself with your need to be needed and your gravitational pull towards anything external that fills the holes that you refuse to take to God. Because the thing about it is, let me help you out. It's not really that you're just such a giving and loving person. A big part of it is. I meet people all day is like, oh, I was designed to help. I was designed to help. I was designed to help. I was created to help. That's my mission. First of all, help. We all were created to help. You have to have a more acute vision on what your assignment and your calling and your purpose is in the earth, first of all. Secondly, you can only help to the extent that you are capable. And the third thing is that, yes, you're nice and you like doing things, but you also like the relevance. You like the relevance that comes with being a helper and being a resource for other people. So what that does is it causes you in your mind to overextend, overpromise, overdeliver, right? To a point where at the end of it all, you're like, well, these people didn't even thank me or they don't appreciate what I do. And that is a clue into the fact that you're not doing it for the sake of doing it. You're doing it in part because of the relevance and the things that you gain from being everybody's savior, being everybody's Superman and Superwoman, right? And so instead of bringing those holes that you have in your heart and the need for relevance and the need for adoration, and these are human needs. I'm not judging them. But those needs need to be filled by God first. And that is a part of your journey of self-fidelity, is getting your needs where they actually can be filled so you can pour in other people that need your pour. And here's another thing about self-fidelity. You even let your inner voice talk to you crazy and bully you. And the other thing about self-fidelity is not just the interactions that you have with everybody else, but the interactions that you're having within yourself. So the inner voices in your head talk to you crazy and bully you. You're not good enough. You can't do that. Remember how you failed the last time, right? Where within yourself are you even safe? How can you be functional under that level of stress and hostility? You're getting messages from the culture. You're getting messages from people around you. And even in your mind, you're not safe from critique and expectations, unrealistic expectations. As a matter of fact, I think many of us today who like greatly desire relationships, I think it has less to do with relationships and more to do with wanting relief from the lack of acceptance and affirmations that we need to feel more at peace. So essentially we're outsourcing people to do the work that we should be doing within ourselves. And now the focus is not really on the relationship. It's what I need from the relationship because I don't have a foundation of it within myself already. So oftentimes we get disappointed by our partners when they don't show up as, overly expressive, or when they're, when they don't always communicate the ways that we want them to. Yes, we need communication in those things in relationships, but the extent by which we need them is often because we are outsourcing our needs. We are outsourcing our needs. We're outsourcing the things that should already be foundational in us on other people, adding to the weight and to the responsibilities of a relationship, right? So the gag is acceptance and affirmation ideally starts as an inside job. It starts as an inside job. And many of us maybe grew up in environments where affirmation wasn't really done, right? We were expected to do right instead of being celebrated for doing what was right. And that's not necessarily a good thing, right? So maybe you have to learn that skill, but I need you to know that it's not too late to start. And the earlier you begin, the more effective your relationships will be, and the more effective you will be in other areas, and your ability to create boundaries, and your ability to say no when you need to, and your ability to, engage where your pour is needed and not feel slighted, right? So what would it look like for you to have some self-fidelity? Well, how do you dig into your hopes and your desires? How do you invest in those things that you really want for your life? How do you reacquaint or acquaint yourself with pleasure, right? One thing that I realized was that I didn't have enough pleasure. One of the signs that I didn't have enough pleasure in my life or pleasurable experiences was that I would be so excited for the weekend so I could not quite binge eat, but eat the things that I want. And that's cool. right? That's cool, right? Because I'll eat a little bit better during the week, and then on the weekend I'm gonna have my seafood and I'm gonna have, my fries or whatever. But I also realized like the amount of money that I was spending on that experience was because I had no Monday through Friday. I wasn't experiencing if any or very little pleasure throughout the week. So I like had to pour all of my pleasure on a weekend, right? When like I need to be, and you need to be experiencing pleasure Monday through Friday. And I'm not talking about guilty pleasures. I'm not talking about pleasures that'll, take you down a rabbit hole of sin, but like having pleasurable moments and experiences, self-caring for 30 minutes a day or whatever your thing is, but reacquaint or acquaint yourself for the first time with pleasure. Prioritize yourself. Say no more. So here are 3 signs of self-fidelity, and I'm going to give you homework on how to move towards that space, okay? Number 1, listen to your body and trust your discernment. That is number 1. That is a spiritual practice. Discernment has been given to all of us because we all have the Holy Spirit if you are a Christian, and we have been given wisdom. The Bible talks about how he freely gives us wisdom, right? But listen to your body and trust your discernment. The second thing is have a self-care routine. I talk about this in the Heal for Real course. I actually help you, and I have a template for self-care to show you how to map it out. And it's extensive. It's not about just one day or little moments or one thing. It's a plan. Okay? Have a plan for self-care and make changes as necessary. Changes are okay. Then the last thing is advocate and make decisions that are in your best interest, whether or not other people agree. Advocate for yourself, whether or not people agree, and sometimes whether or not you want to do it. Things like things like working out, that's in your best interest. You may not be excited about it, but it's necessary, right? Or deciding that, you know what, I'm not going to show up to Thanksgiving this year. People may not like it, but it's necessary. That is you operating in self-fidelity. So how do we get to the place of self-fidelity? Well, on the deep side of the conversation, you heal, right? You heal. But you to break it down, you honor your humanity, you understand your past, you understand your present, you process your past, and you transform your future, which is essentially the outline of the Heal for Real course, right? So on day 1, where do you go from here? Well, you start by spending time with yourself. Find out what you like. Find out what you don't like. Your desires, your hopes, your dreams, your beliefs, right? What do you care about? What impassions you? What emboldens you? What makes you scared? What makes you angry, right? Start from there and practice listening to your body and believing yourself. So your homework is, and this is something that I have been doing for a few years, pick one day out of the week and pick like a 3-4 hour time block. And I want you to maneuver the day or that time block by doing things that you want. So Saturdays is my, I call it my intuitive days. And so I wake up when my body feels like waking up. I eat when my body is ready to eat. If I want to go to Target and just walk around, I do that. I just allow my body and my mind the ability to move outside of a schedule, outside of a clock, outside of expectations. And that gives me the time to, like, all I'm doing is listening to my body, listening to my desires and my heart in that moment. So that way I'm staying connected, I'm staying ingrained, and I'm building that practice. So that is your homework. I want you to pick a time block, pick a day, and just have some intuitive hours, even if it's just 2 hours. See what it's like to move at the pace that you desire for just 2 hours. You'll be amazed at what you find. I move at a very, very, very quick pace on a lot of days, but actually my body likes to move very slow. I like to take my time in making decisions. I like to, maneuver spaces and things like that at my own leisure. And I don't often get to do that. But I wouldn't have known that about myself. I thought I was a very quick paced person. I'm not. I'm actually a slow mover. I like to kind of really indulge. And so you'll be amazed at what you learn from yourself, and that'll allow you to begin to move in self-fidelity. So what are we grabbing? Well, this episode, we are grabbing our faithfulness to ourselves, our responsibility to honor our desires and our experiences, and the power to set boundaries and say no. All right. So that brings us to questions and confessions. Today's questions and confessions is brought to us once again by Facebook. Again, if you have a question, if you have something that you want me to answer, or if you have a confession that you want me to respond to, go to admin@authenticallywed.com, admin@authenticallywed.com, and I want you to put questions and confessions in the subject, and then let me know what your situation is or somebody else's situation that you want me to respond to, okay? So today's, it says, for being a top seller at his company, Derek won a week-long vacation at a 5-star restaurant in Bali. The package was valued at $8,500. The package did not include flights. Derek invited Stacy to join him on the trip. He didn't tell her that he wanted at work. He told her, if you get the plane tickets, I'll cover everything else. Stacy replied, if you want to take me somewhere, you should cover everything, including the flight. Derek and Tiffany had an amazing time. Was Derek wrong? Was Stacy being unfair? Did y'all catch that? Derek asked Stacy. Stacy was like, you gonna flew me out or you gonna flew me out? And Derek was like, yeah, so anyways, Tiffany, you trying to go? What's with it? And Tiffany and Derek had an amazing time. Now, whoo, this is a tough one. I really hope I speak to it well. So, first of all, I don't think either person was wrong. I don't. So here's the thing. Derek had one end, let me talk about what was wrong. On one end, Derek was trying to get a free flight, okay? Derek was trying to come up. Derek wanted an all expense paid trip, okay? Let's be honest. He already didn't have to pay for the trip itself, and then was like, hey, you buy our plane tickets and I got you. That's a little risky. If I'm a woman, and especially if I don't know, and you're like, hey, I'm a ball out with you in Bali, but you're not buying the flights, or at least your flight. I would have felt better if he was like, buy your ticket. He said, buy the tickets. So I would have felt better about that, only because like, that sounds kind of risky. Like when I buy these tickets, when we fly out there, like, are you sure everything's going to be okay? And then like, maybe let's have a further discussion, right? I don't know why. I kind of understand. I guess he doesn't have to say how he's going to pay for the trip, but there may be other things that he will have to shell out some cash for or whatever, right? Because all expense paid doesn't mean all experience paid. So you may want to get off the resort or whatever the case may be. So that's the only thing I didn't like, is that like, I'm not paying for both of our flights. I'll pay for my flight if you're paying for everything else. That feels like, hey, I was trying to come up on a come up and get possibly some free booty in the process. You know what I'm saying? Like let's be real. What I didn't like about Stacy was just like, I think you should pay for everything. And it's like, honestly and truly, if I'm going on a trip with somebody, now, if it's like the first time, I kind of would expect and like for you to fly out, like to fly me out or whatever. Honestly, the first time I'm meeting somebody, if I'm assuming, I'm not assuming whether they've known each other for a while or not, but I would prefer for that person to fly to me first. And then like, if I'm more comfortable, I'll fly to you. But I think that what I didn't like is just, you know, like this, like you should be, he already said he was going to pay for everything else, right? Regardless of how you knew that was going to happen, maybe compromise on like, hey, I probably can only afford my ticket, but I would like to go. Like, just kind of balance the scales a little bit. But I don't think either one is wrong. She's not wrong for having that expectation. He's not wrong for wanting to go with somebody else that could fulfill his expectation. I don't think anybody's wrong, but I do think that we could have gone about it a little bit differently, Derek, because you were trying to get a free trip on me, and that's what I don't like. Now, granted, I would have gotten a free trip after that, but tickets to Bali ain't cheap. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're talking at least $1,000, right? So I'm gonna pay $1,000 and you gonna take me on a free trip. Honestly, like, now I'm out $1,000. Like, yes, the free trip, but I don't know. Maybe I could have done something else with that money. You know what I mean? So that's the part I didn't like. But he's not wrong for taking somebody who could fulfill those expectations, and she's not wrong for having her standards. So those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you think in the comments and Patreon. I'd love to hear your feedback. Other than that, follow me at Authentically Wed. Join Authentically Wed. Oh, by the way, we sold out this event. Super excited. Can't wait to see you guys there in February 11th, 12th, somewhere around there. But excited for that. If you want to be a sponsor for the event, feel free. It is we're having a singles gala. So if you want to be a vendor, if you want to be a sponsor, if we haven't sold out at the time of this episode, feel free to email us admin@authenticallywed.com. Do sponsor or vendor, and we'll get the information to you as soon as possible. But I'm excited to see my singles there. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have a good time. So to close things out, follow me at Authentically Wed. Join the Authentically Wed Patreon, so that way you can get all the goodies and the bonuses from the episode, as well as additional content, meetups, and all that good stuff. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That is pretty much it. Excited for what 2022 has in store. And thank you to all our sponsors for this episode. And as always, my sign off is, everybody wants milk until it's time to grow an almond tree. Until next time, grab your stuff. Let's go.